The phone rings. It's a number you don't recognize, so it's most likely the hospital. You answer the phone, and it's the hospital social worker. She says words that you honestly did not expect to hear. Your dad is being discharged tomorrow, and your stomach drops. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and this is a story I've heard countless times from families. And in this episode, we are addressing why this happens, tips for how you can advocate, and the most important phrase you need to know. Welcome to Desperately Seeking Senior Living, a podcast for sons, daughters, grandkids, and spouses, and all caregivers who suddenly find themselves tangled in the search for senior living and care. If you like today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and check out our doable download in today's show notes for a printable summary of the show and a bonus tip. Hi, and welcome to the show. If you're a regular listener, you might recognize this next story. It was a turning point in my family's care experience with my dad, and I often refer to it as a miracle. Our dad's roommate called my brother and said, "You need to come get your dad because I'm not going to sit here and watch him die." We had no idea how sick our father was. It was something that he didn't want us to know. And so we took him to the emergency room, and after hours there, the ER doctor approached us and said, "We're getting ready to discharge your dad. We have no reason to admit him." We were immediately sent into panic mode. Dad's roommate was not a care option. We were not a care option. We had no support. There was no other option. And I remember thinking, how is this even happening? In our case, it ended up being what I really felt and feel was a miracle situation. After pleading with the ER doctor, they admitted our dad. He eventually moved to their hospice wing, where he later died at 55 years old. But miracles do not happen for every family. I've worked with so many families, and I can tell you that this kind of pressure is incredibly difficult. It's also very common. So, today we're going to talk about why hospitals do this, why they move quickly, what medically stable actually means, and one phrase that you can use to slow things down. It is a phrase that is magic, and you're going to want to flag this episode just for this phrase. But first, let's take the emotion out of it just for a second. Hospitals are acute care settings. They're designed to treat an immediate medical issue, stabilize, and then discharge. And I don't know if you are a fan of TV, but I am. And I love the show The Pit. And if there's one thing about whether it's ER or The Pit or what, if you watch any medical show, if there's one thing, it's about scarcity. Scarcity of beds is a common theme, and they are consistently looking for who can we discharge, who can we move out of the ER. And this is exactly what we're talking about here. The emergency room and even the hospital, they are not long-term care facilities. So when a doctor says someone is medically stable, that doesn't mean they're safe to function at home alone. It just means that the immediate crisis has been treated. And sometimes that creates a huge disconnect between medically stable, which is the hospital's job to determine, and functional safety, which is your job to provide or find. And okay, hang on. I want to say that again because I think this is really important to understand. The hospital's job is to determine medical stability, but it is your job to find or provide care, functional safety for your loved one. And this is where the disconnect is. And this is where the panic sets in. So, okay, I promised you a phrase. So here we go. Are you ready? Because I'm going to give you the magic phrase that is going to buy you time. And this is a phrase that you're going to want to write down. You're going to want to make sure you keep it in your phone, in your notes section. You're going to want to share it with your friends and coworkers and neighbors. Okay, are you ready? Here it is. You're going to say to the hospital team, if you find yourself in this situation, you're going to say, I am concerned this would be an unsafe discharge. That's it. It's that simple. And you're not being dramatic. You are using clinical language, hospital, and skilled nursing language. When you say unsafe discharge, it signals to them there are safety concerns. Documentation may be required. The discharge plan needs to be reviewed. You are pausing this process. You're slowing things down. And when stress is high in this situation, many families don't realize that you're allowed to slow things down. When you do this, you are advocating. So let's talk about some of the situations that present as unsafe discharges. And then a little bit later, I'm going to talk about what this phrase actually buys you. So, one example of an unsafe discharge could be that your loved one now needs a wheelchair, but there are no ramps at their home and there is no accessible bathroom in their home or your home, right? There is no place that they could safely be in a wheelchair. It could mean that your loved one, maybe they don't need a wheelchair, but they're still unable to navigate stairs and their home has stairs. Or maybe it's as simple as your family is just not able to provide care. There isn't going to be anyone there to help your dad go to the bathroom or to get his meals and medications. He can't do these things on his own, and therefore, there is no safe discharge. There is no home or situation for him to safely discharge to. So, what does this actually do for you? Using this phrase, right? This one simple phrase of unsafe discharge buys you days, time to get connected to resources like placement advisors or in home care. That one phrase helps you buy time to put a plan in place. Now, it's not going to buy you enough time to build a wheelchair ramp, but it is going to give you enough time to come up with your plan B. But let's not stop here. Let's look at some other questions that you can ask the hospital team to help you advocate. First, what is the safe discharge plan? In other words, what are my loved one's true care needs after leaving the hospital? Second, if we can't safely care for dad at home, then what are the other options? And this is when you might get connected with a placement advisor. This is a good place to ask if they know of anyone who provides those services. This is a good place to Google this for your own research. And I actually have an episode on how to Google for these resources because that is quite difficult as well. So I'll put a link to that in show notes. The last question that you want to ask is, does your loved one qualify for skilled nursing rehab? And this last question is really powerful because rehab is another way to buy yourself at least a week of extra time. And I've got an episode on this as well that I'll put in show notes too. If you are already working with a placement advisor or someone else helping you research, you want to say that too. You want to say, we are actively working on a safe next step, because this shows the hospital that you are taking on your responsibility of providing functional safety. So, I want to talk about why the phrase unsafe discharge is so powerful. It's actually really simple. In many states, hospitals and skilled nursing facilities face large financial penalties if someone is discharged and readmitted within a certain window. Now, is it catastrophic for the hospital system? No, but it is not what they're aiming for. And isn't safety something that we should all be aiming for anyway? And for you as the family member and for your loved one, going back and forth from home to hospital is chaotic. No one wants to bring their dad home only to call 911 24 hours later. And this is why it is not only effective, but it is in everyone's best interest to say, we are not comfortable with this discharge plan. This is an unsafe discharge. You're not being uncooperative. You're being proactive. And again, you're advocating. So if you're feeling rushed, confused, pressured, guilty, you're not alone. Hospitals are designed to move quickly. It is their job. But for families, you need time. And sometimes those two timelines don't match up. You don't have to decide everything in one hospital visit. Sometimes the options that you pursue next might be temporary options. You're allowed to ask for clarity. You're allowed to ask about rehab. You're allowed to express safety concerns. And if you ever find yourself in that moment where it feels like things are just moving too fast, take a breath and remember that magic phrase. I'm concerned this would be an unsafe discharge. Thank you for listening in. If you'd like help on your journey to finding the right senior living and care option, you can find us at www.clearpathsls.com and schedule your free initial consultation. ClearPath helps families across the U.S., and we're here to help you. Don't forget to like and share, and hopefully this episode helps make your journey a little more doable. You're listening to our doable tips, short answers to your questions. Don't see your question listed? Send us a note. Then don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an answer. Today's episode is brought to you by ClearPath Senior Living Solutions. ClearPath helps families find assisted living, memory care, and other resources. Find our contact information in today's show notes. Check out this episode's doable download in show notes for details, including industry terms and definitions we discussed, as well as a bonus tip from our guest. Have questions or your own tips to share? Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, make it doable.